Argentina has two things: economic instability and some of the best shale rock in the world.
Vaca Muerta is the biggest opportunity that Argentina has.
Miguel Galuccio knows a thing or two about Argentina. He worked his way up to president of integrated projects at Schlumberger to lead the Argentinian state-owned oil company YPF. He now heads Vista, the first independent oil company operating in Vaca Muerta.
We need this type of company, the company that are Shale, the company that are innovative, the company that are entrepreneurial, fast mover, and Vista is the first of that kind. It's the first one that is taking that risk.
Vista IPO'd in Mexico through a special purpose acquisition company 2 years ago with backing from private equity giant Riverstone. It bought 4 blocks in the Neuquén Basin, which includes drilling rights to 134,000 acres in Vaca Muerta, the core of the shale oil window.
The reality is we have 400 wells that we can drill here and just take us 150 wells in order to reach this fantastic growth. That gives you an idea of how rich this area is in terms of resources.
Vista recently listed on the New York Stock Exchange and is now the second biggest producer in Vaca Muerta, producing over 32,000 barrels of oil equivalent a day in just 16 months. The hope is that well performance speaks for itself.
Some of the wells that have come in this year from some private operators are producing twice at the rates of what they were producing 2 years ago. And so in a very short time span, really dramatically climbing up the learning curve.
Second month, the oil started to come up, and the performance of the well is still excellent, and the third month was amazing. Okay, we're still having the same performance, the same IP, less drop in pressure, and a fantastic oil production. So we're very happy.
It's not easy to be an entrepreneur in Argentina. A lot of problems start and stop with the economy.
We magically converted a surplus of $6 billion in the energy trade balance to a $7 billion deficit.
Energy Secretary Gustavo Lopetegui is trying to change that and turn a deficit into a $2 billion surplus by 2021. It's slow going. The government has a $56 billion loan from the IMF, and one way to help pay for it is a 10% export tax on all goods, including oil.
We hate that tax. We don't like that tax. But you know, when you have an accident, you go to the hospital and they do to you nasty things just to stay you alive, no? So there was no alternative.
I think in the next year it's very likely that we will start to export light crude oil from Vaca Muerta.
Vista exported a small cargo of light oil in June, and analysts say fuel exports could rise by 20% to $4.7 billion in 2020.
If we develop seriously Vaca Muerta, it will be to export what is produced, because actually today we produce the oil we consume.
One problem is a right of first refusal law, where producers are only allowed to export when there's excess oil the refiners don't need.
We need to free it up, and we need to move to a mindset where we said we have more than we need. We need to stimulate the system and the market in order to create a Vaca Muerta brand abroad.
Vaca Muerta has a long way to go to even get the infrastructure in place to export.
Who will help build infrastructure out to some of these more remote blocks outside of the core of where most of the activity has been, because that will ultimately really impact whether those blocks develop and whether this play really takes off the ground in a big way.
And that's an area where the government can help by attracting more oil majors.
They are very interested. They are all doing pilot projects, and some of them go to development.
Big oil companies like Shell and Total poured $13 billion into exploration over the past 8 years. And now Exxon just doubled down on Vaca Muerta with a 5-year plan to produce the equivalent of 55,000 barrels of crude and gas a day.
Last year, investment in Vaca Muerta was more than $4 billion. So investment in service companies, in infrastructure, practically we will have to build new cities if the potential we are exploiting.
Can you do that? Are you willing to do that?
Of course.
Can you afford it?
Well, you know, if we are intelligent in the way that we manage our resources, there will be plenty of resources to do that.
Exxon is drilling 90 wells and building a production facility and infrastructure to connect the region to pipelines and refineries.
How much money do you think is going to come in over the next few years? What's your estimate?
I think that 4 billion could grow easily 10–15% per year. This is what we are talking with the main international companies and also the Argentinians.
If things go well, Exxon could increase its production equivalent to 75,000 barrels of oil and gas, and in some ways, it's cheaper than the Permian.
If you look at some of the recent transactions in the Permian, the entry costs there are incredibly high and very competitive. But in Vaca Muerta, those costs are much lower. It's a much lower cost of entry for companies. And so that will play a key role, I think, in attracting investors to the country.
ConocoPhillips is the latest major to buy into Vaca Muerta, signing a sales and purchase deal with Wintershall, giving them exposure to 2 blocks in the Neuquén Basin. The hope is that U.S. E&Ps will be next.
If U.S. independent come to Argentina, they will add a lot because we need this type of companies. We need more investment.
One big deterrent is the upcoming presidential elections.
I think that the main thing is political stability, that the rules that we establish are respected and continue.
Something that looks less likely after President Macri's crushing defeat in the August primaries. The government responded by freezing oil prices for 3 months, saying it was essential to preserve the supply of fuel to meet the basic needs of the population. That means oil companies are making around $40 a barrel, hard to cover cost and hard to grow, threatening to undo Macri's work to liberalize the energy market and an about-face from just months ago.
We are just in the beginning. We have not to ruin that.
Some say the government did just that. The question is, can it get any worse?
Ultimately, investors in Argentina just want to have line of sight to the regulatory environment.
The other fear is that Cristina Kirchner, former president and now on the VP ticket, comes back to power.
The industry is quite concerned with the potential result of a Kirchner election, especially with regards to the impact that would have to, potentially bringing back any price controls or potentially capital controls.
Yo me siento obligada.
Something Kirchner did in 2011, gaining a reputation of turning Argentina into an investment pariah. President Macri reversed those capital controls in 2015, only to bring them back after the recent primaries.
The political climate is always a concern in Argentina. It's been, and I don't think that is going to change soon going forward.
Galluccio is considered the architect of Vaca Muerta. He ran YPF during Kirchner's presidency and was able to entice foreign investment into the oil play.
We basically realized that in order to develop Vaca Muerta, we need capital from abroad, that we need other companies.
Vista is now taking the government to court to avoid those prejudices which may impact the current operations and financials of Vista.
If Cristina Kirchner gets elected, I think she will do for Vaca Muerta what needs to be done. That is basically continue what we're doing and to accelerate. I think if Macri gets elected, is also will do that.
I would like to have the stability that Chile, Peru, even Colombia have achieved. And Vaca Muerta can play a big role in gaining that stability.
That stability just got harder.
Argentinians, it's very difficult for us to agree on something. But what has happened during the last 6 years is that politicians, communities, unions, companies have agreed that Vaca Muerta is a huge opportunity.
And for Vista and the government, it's not just about producing oil, it's about saving Argentina.
What is at stake is huge.
This is a play that could produce 1 million barrels of oil equivalent in the next 10 years.
It can change the whole economy of the country and can change people's life.
Can you get to $20 billion a year industry like agriculture?
I have no doubt.
Yeah? Can you get bigger?
I think we can go bigger.
How big?
I think we can double that.
Coming up, big money, big oil, big potential.
As people see the political difficulties in other regions of the world, they will start to migrate more to South America. We think the best place to find oil is when you're standing in oil.